Education Today. I'm Madison of Katanning High School in the Armstrong School District. There are many different elements that are a part of every student's daily life. This is no secret that schools can be a very stressful place for students. Peer pressure, grades, other students, and other activities can have a strong impact. These different factors can affect children in many different ways, and in today's society, it is important to pay attention to these students for their overall well-being. This becomes the responsibility of everyone that a student comes in contact with during the school day, and the school district works with different professionals in cases where problems may exist. Tonight we have a guest with us from one of the organizations that the school district works with to help give us an insight to different elements that affect a student's well-being. Welcome to Education Today. Would you please introduce yourself and tell us about your positions?
Sure. Hi, Madison. Thank you so much for allowing me to be on the show tonight. My name is Krista Ball. I am the program manager of the Highmark Caring Place.
Can you explain your relationship with the district?
Sure. The Highmark Caring Place works not only with Armstrong School District, but with school districts throughout the area to help provide support for grieving children within the district.
What is Highmark Caring Place?
The Highmark Caring Place is a center for grieving children, adolescents, and their families. We actually began in 1996, and we have 4 sites throughout the state of Pennsylvania. We are a child-focused program that provides support for the needs of grieving children. We also provide support for their entire family. So we really look at the whole needs of the child and their family to make sure that they're getting the support that they need during this difficult time.
What benefits are there to having a program like this in this place?
Well, I think that what's so important to think about is that there are so many children that are grieving. Statistics show us that 1 out of every 20 children will experience the death of a parent before they graduate from high school. And that's not counting the many, many other students that experience the death of someone close to them, perhaps a sibling, a close friend, a close relative. So the need is really great. There are a lot of children and teens who are grieving. And I think that the thought is, well, do they really need that much support? People think kids are resilient. Maybe they'll just get over it on their own, and maybe they don't need the support. But what we know is that when kids are grieving, they are impacted deeply by the loss. They really need support around them to let them know that they are not alone in what they're going through and that someone understands and can be there to provide that support. Because what happens with grief is it's not only just a one-time event that the loss happens and then a child is able to get over it. There actually is no getting over it when it comes to grief. Grief becomes a lifelong journey that children continue to work on throughout their development for the rest of their lives. If you think about it from the perspective of looking at a child's daily life, every time a new event comes up, every time a holiday, an anniversary, a special occasion in their lives, they're faced with their grief all over again. And so this journey that continues, they really need to have support throughout all of that.
Okay. Can you explain to us how this program works?
Sure. The Caring Place works through peer support. So what that means is the Caring Place is all about children and teens and their families supporting one another. Again, the goal is for kids to know that they are not alone in what they're going through. So it's all about kids getting together, meeting with another child their own age who has also had a loss, so that they can really be together and say, I understand what you're going through. Certainly we know that each family that comes to the Caring Place, each child, each teen, their story is unique, but there are threads of similarities that tie these families together, and they are able to really connect with one another and to say, I can be there for you because I understand what it's like.
How does this provide support to grieving children?
Well, again, as I've been saying, the goal is really for kids to know that they are not alone, that somebody else understands. And we do this through, as I said, a peer support model, all about the kids and the family supporting one another. Many people wonder, is the Caring Place a counseling or a therapy program? And the answer is no, that it's not. What we provide at the Caring Place, it is very therapeutic for the families, but we are not therapy. It's all about the families supporting one another. And in fact, our program really is a volunteer-driven organization. We have a very small number of staff at each of our Caring Place facilities, and we actually rely very heavily on our trained volunteers to help us facilitate the program.
How can someone recognize when a child might need help after the death of someone close to them?
Well, I think what's important to think about is that, just the mere experience of losing someone, of losing a loved one in your life, that experience in and of itself is enough to require extra support. A child or a teen doesn't need to be exhibiting any type of behaviors to say that they need support after the death of a loved one. A death of a loved one is a traumatic experience, and just that requires support. But we do know certainly that there are some things that would require maybe some extra attention. If a child is really having difficulties getting through their daily routine, maybe we're seeing some acting out behaviors, some real aggressive behaviors, maybe a sharp drop in grades that lasts for an extended period of time. Any of those things can be common and can be very normal for a child who is grieving, but if they extend for a long period of time, or if the child's parents or guardians are really concerned, then we might want to take a closer look at that and see what types of supports are needed. And I would encourage any family that is going through that to call to the Caring Place, to talk with one of our child grief specialists, and really to work through that a little bit and to see what support might be beneficial. Maybe it's coming to the Caring Place and getting that peer support, and maybe it's something even more, maybe looking at counseling or therapy. And the child grief specialist at the Caring Place would really be able to work with a family to talk through that.
Mm-hmm. What is Children's Grief Awareness Day, and why is it set in November?
So Children's Grief Awareness Day is actually a special day that takes place on the third Thursday of every November. So it's the Thursday before Thanksgiving. This year it falls on November 20th. And Children's Grief Awareness Day is a special day to take pause and to show our support for grieving children. It actually started right here in Western Pennsylvania at the Caring Place in 2008, and now this day is recognized not only across the United States but really worldwide. So it's been amazing to watch this day grow into something so much larger. And what it's all about is to show grieving children that there are people all over who are supporting you, who want to say, I'm there for you and I want to show my support. And the reason that we think it's important and why we picked to have it in November is that we know that the holidays can be an extra difficult time for families who are grieving. It can be really hard to go through those special times of year when typically it's a very fun, celebratory atmosphere, and sometimes when you're grieving, gosh, it just doesn't seem like you're able to have fun, and maybe it seems like there's not a lot to celebrate. And we know that extra support for grieving children and families is important during that time of year. So I think it just made sense to have Children's Grief Awareness Day take place in November.
Mm-hmm. How can people observe this day?
There are so many things that people can do, both small and large, to observe the day. I think the easiest thing, the simplest thing that someone can do is on Children's Grief Awareness Day this year, November 20th, to wear blue. Blue is the color of Children's Grief Awareness Day, and by wearing blue, you're saying that I show my support for grieving children. And I think not only wearing blue, but on that particular day, letting people know why you're wearing blue. So really making it known that I'm wearing blue to support grieving children and that I want to be there. And we've seen certainly many individuals wear blue. We're seeing more and more organizations and schools and everybody wearing blue and saying that I'm here for support.
Is there anything else you'd like to add about the Caring Place?
I think it's really important to know that the Caring Place is actually a service that's provided free of charge to all children and their families, and really to the community. It's really important for families to know that they can come and get this support regardless of their type of insurance, regardless of their financial situation. Those are questions that we do not ask. We provide this service free of charge to any family that is grieving. And it can be for any child or teen who has had a loss of someone close to them. So it doesn't have to be a loss of an immediate family member. It really can be a child who is grieving any loss of someone close to them. And it's also important to know that a family can come to the caring place at any time. So we don't place a timeline on grief in any way. You know, we know that, as I was saying earlier, grief is a lifelong journey. And so sometimes families are ready to come to the caring place right away. And sometimes it takes families a year, 2 years, even longer than that to say, I'm ready to go and to get some support. So we don't place any timeline whatsoever. Children and families can come at any time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back with Armstrong School District's Education Today. Stick around.
Success. We see it every day. Hundreds of majors and programs, bachelor's degrees to PhDs, small classes, internationally known faculty who are committed to your success. Real-world experiences to guide you on your career and life path. An alumni network 120,000 strong. I'm IUP President Mike Driscoll. Visit us. Find your success at Indiana University of Pennsylvania.
Vince Mercuri, Executive Director of the Open Door. Worried, scared, confused, not sure where to turn for help? The Open Door, a behavioral health organization, has a full range of addiction counseling services and mental health crisis intervention services which may be able to help. Call 724-465-2605 or 1-877-333-2470. The Open Door, steps towards hope, courage, and recovery. Brought to you by the Armstrong, Indiana Drug-Free Communities Coalition.
All your professors, all of them, they know that all it takes is one dreamer with passion, one person, and they hope in each of you that you might be that one who makes a longer lasting light bulb, who writes music for the ages, who reaches into the mind and discovers a new star, and who can change the world of a fifth grader. We're gathered here to hope in you.
We're back with Armstrong School District's Education Today. Tonight we are talking to a member of the Highmark Caring Place and the importance of being aware of a child's mental health. What should a family expect when they go to the caring place?
So what will happen is if a family's interested in the services at the caring place, typically they first call in and they would speak with one of our child grief specialists, and we would really take them through a conversation to learn a little bit more about the loss that they have experienced and a little bit about each member of the family and how everyone's doing. And through that conversation, we would take a look to see, is peer support going to be appropriate for this family, or maybe do they need a referral to something else? So we will definitely work with a family to determine that. If we determine that peer support is appropriate, we would invite the family to come out to the caring place. And eventually what a family does is they join one of our peer support groups. And the way that the groups work is they take place in the evening. And during the evening that the family's there, there's really kind of two portions of the night. The first half of the evening is more of a dinner and community time. So we do provide dinner every evening that the families are there. And we just have a really relaxed environment that is a community time. You know, it's a time for families to transition from their day and get ready to be at the caring place. It's a time for them to just kind of unwind and get to know and start to be together within the community of each other, and knowing that we are all here together for a similar reason and we're all here to support one another. After that initial community time, what we then do is we break up into individual support groups. And so for the kids, they are divided into groups according to their ages. And so we actually have groups anywhere from infants all the way through high school graduation. So we see a whole age range of children. And so the kids are broken up into groups according to their ages, and then the adults also meet together in the support groups. And as I was saying earlier, each of the groups are led and facilitated by our trained volunteers. And what's happening in the rooms is that we're really working with the children and the teens to help them to express their grief. We're talking about expressing feelings, sharing memories with one another, sharing the story of of the loved one that has passed and talking about how that has impacted their lives. And I think the other really important thing to know is that at the Caring Place, it's not all talking about the loss. You know, it's about just being a kid, just being a teenager and having fun. We have an air hockey room that many people are surprised to see when they come to the Caring Place because they don't expect that at a grieving center. But we know that it's really important to be able to just be a kid. Even though you're a child that is grieving, you are still a kid and you are still, you know, going through everything that all of the other children your age are going through. And so being able to just have fun and be together and to laugh and to play is really important.
Thanks. Children spend a lot of their time at school. How does grief impact a student who is grieving?
So what happens, absolutely, children spend most of their time at school. And we know that a death can impact a child greatly when they are at school. You know, I think what happens for any child, maybe particularly for teens, most importantly, they're just wanting to fit in, to know that I'm like my peers and that I'm part of a group. And oftentimes when a teen experiences the death of a loved one, all of a sudden they feel different and they feel like they don't fit in. They feel like their peers can't understand them. And so oftentimes they withdraw and they become socially isolated because they don't quite know how to fit in. I think the other thing that happens, you know, when you're at school, you're separated from your family. And when you've experienced the death of a loved one, you often become really anxious and worried about your family members. You know, because children will worry, maybe if something could happen to dad, does that mean that something's going to happen to mom? Or maybe is something going to happen to someone else I care about? So they become very anxious when they're separated from their families. So school can be a hard time to be separated from your families, and that anxiety can really rise. You know, children can be very easily distracted when they're grieving because they're thinking about the loss. They're thinking about their loved ones that are still at home. So we can see daydreaming, we can see distraction. We often see a drop in grades for children that are grieving because they're really just not able to focus and to pay attention.
What can teachers and faculty do to be supportive of grieving children?
You know, I think it's really important for schools to know what's going on. We always encourage our Caring Place families to talk to the school, to talk to the guidance counselor, to talk to a child or teen's teacher, and to let them know that this child has had a loss. And for faculty and for teachers, I think it's really important just to let a grieving student know that you are there and that you're available for them. And, you know, not to make them to feel different in any way or to point them out, but to say, you know what, if you need to talk, we're here for you. And maybe to come up with a way to make that happen. It might be providing a grief pass, you know, a pass that a child can turn in, or, you know, just a pass to say, if you need to get up and leave the classroom, if things are a little bit too intense, maybe you can get up and go to the guidance counselor, or maybe it's another professional, the school nurse or the principal, someone that is going to be that safe person that a child can go and talk to really give them a place if they need to talk during the day. And I think the other thing that can sometimes be helpful, you know, particularly as I was talking about, children are anxious and worried about their loved ones that they are separated from during the day. You know, sometimes giving a child or a teen permission to call home and to check in on their loved ones and to just say, you know, I needed to check in on you. I needed to hear your voice and know that everything is okay. And to allow that, for schools to give permission to allow that to happen, can be really important.
How can peers be supportive of a friend who's grieving?
I think it can be really tough for peers to think about, how can I be there for my friend, especially if that peer hasn't had a loss themselves. And so sometimes they think, I have no idea what to say, and so maybe I'm not going to say anything at all and I'm just going to avoid the person. And that can be really hard for a child or teen that is grieving, for their friends to separate themselves and to not talk to them during this difficult time. And so I would say that it's okay to not know what to say. And you don't have to have the exact right words to say. And in fact, sometimes there aren't any words at all to say. You know, sometimes there isn't an answer. There isn't an easy fix when it comes to grief. So rather than worrying about what is it that I'm going to say, just letting your friend know that I'm there for you. If you want to talk, I'll be here. If you don't want to talk, I'll still be here, and I can sit next to you. And whenever you're ready to talk, I'll be here for you. And kind of whatever it is that grieving child knows, if their peers just let them know that I'm here for you, that can be so important.
What can schools do to recognize Children's Grief Awareness Day?
There are so many things that schools can do to recognize Children's Grief Awareness Day. As I was saying, the easiest thing is to wear blue. So many schools, as I said, are asking the entire student body to wear blue. I think Children's Grief Awareness Day is a great way to begin to talk about a subject that is really difficult, a day that we can say, all right, let's talk about this. And to recognize that there are many, many children in really each school that are grieving, and sometimes there's more kids at a school that are grieving than the teachers, than the faculty even know, because maybe the children aren't talking about it. So doing something like a memory wall where students can go and sign the memory wall in memory of a loved one that has died, a chance to be able to kind of publicly recognize it and to say that our whole school is here to support you and we're all coming together around this difficult subject. And when you do something like that, like a memory wall, it really becomes a visual where you can see, absolutely there are many kids at our school that are grieving and that we're not alone.
Thank you. Is there any other information that you'd like to share, or is there anything else that we haven't covered today that you would like to talk about?
I just think that just to know how deeply grief impacts children and teens, and to know how important it is that they get the support. And so to really, when you know of a child or a teen who is grieving, to point them in the direction of the Highmark Caring Place, to give them the information. And maybe a family isn't ready to call right away, and maybe they get that information and they put it aside, and maybe they don't look at it for months or years to come. But I think it's important that they get the information, even if you think that they've gotten it already, or even if you think, gosh, it's too soon, or it's been too long since the loss. I would say still give them the information and to let them know about it. And we really rely on the community to help us to be our referral source and to help families find their way to the caring place. And the other thing that I want to point out is that in addition to the peer support services that we offer at the caring place, we do really work with the community at large. So we have an outreach and education program. We're really working with anyone that is coming into contact with children and really providing training on how to support a grieving child. And we do also offer consultation and referral services for anyone calling into the caring place. So, even if a family, as I said, even if the caring place ends up not being the right fit for them, we will definitely make sure that they get the referrals and the services that they need. And again, all of the services, the education and outreach, the consultation and referral, and our peer support program, everything is offered at no charge to the family.
Okay, well, that's our show today. I'd like to thank our guest, Miss Krista Ball of the Highmark Caring Place, for taking the time to come in and talk to us today. Our thanks go out to the TV production students of Katanning High School, led by their teacher, Mr. Don Swanson. They were our film crew today. Please join us again next week for another look at the Armstrong School District. Visit our website for updated information about the district, and have a great week.